Three nickels, three distinct eras, all hiding mint mistakes worth thousands. From wartime 1941 to the space race of '61 and the modern 2004, these Jefferson Nickels left the mint with errors that transformed them from pocket change into numismatic treasures. One recently sold for a price that would make seasoned collectors pause. Today, we uncover why these three coins have the collecting world buzzing. The 1941 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that most would pass by without a second glance, holds secrets that have made collectors' hearts race and auction houses buzz with excitement. In 1941, as America stood on the brink of World War II, the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were working overtime to meet the nation's growing demand for currency. But in their rush to produce millions of nickels, mistakes were made. Valuable mistakes that today could be worth more than a house. One collector in Ohio discovered this truth in the most unexpected way. While sorting through his father's old coin collection, James Morrison noticed something peculiar about a 1941 nickel, a subtle doubling on Jefferson's profile that most people would miss. That small imperfection turned out to be worth $35,000 at auction. But that's just the beginning of our story. The 1941 Jefferson Nickel series holds some of the most valuable minting errors ever documented in American numismatic history. Today, we're going to explore every detail that makes these coins exceptional, from the most subtle double dies to the rarest off-center strikes that can command prices in the hundreds of thousands. Let's start with the basics of what makes a 1941 nickel valuable. In typical circulated condition, these coins might be worth a few dollars. But when we dive into the realm of errors and varieties, everything changes. The first key area to examine is the mint mark. In 1941, nickels were produced at three different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. The mint mark appears on the reverse of the coin, to the right of Monticello. One of the most sought-after errors from this year is the double die obverse. When the hub imparted its image onto a working die multiple times, and those impressions were slightly misaligned, it created coins with visible doubling. On the 1941 nickel, this doubling is most noticeable in Jefferson's eye, the word Liberty, and the date. A strong double die can increase the value of a 1941 nickel from a few dollars to tens of thousands. In September 2019, a professional grading service authenticated a 1941 Philadelphia nickel with an extraordinary double die obverse. The coin, preserved in mint state condition, showed dramatic doubling on the date and Liberty. It sold at a specialized auction for $67,500. The buyer, a prominent collector from Texas, called it the finest example of a double die from the 1941 series he had ever seen. But double dies aren't the only errors that make these coins valuable. Off-center strikes occur when the planchet isn't properly centered between the dies during striking. A 1941 nickel struck 5% off-center might be worth $100, but one struck 50% off-center while still showing the complete date can sell for $5,000 or more. In 2018, a 1941 D nickel struck 65% off-center in mint state condition achieved a remarkable $12,500 at auction. The strike itself plays a crucial role in value. Full steps nickels, those showing complete detail on the steps leading to Monticello on the reverse, command significant premiums. In 1941, the dies were often used beyond their optimal life, resulting in weakly struck coins. Finding one with pristine step detail is rare, especially from the San Francisco Mint. Speaking of the San Francisco Mint, they produce some of the most valuable error coins of 1941. The most notable is the 1941 S double-struck nickel. This occurs when a coin receives multiple impressions from the dies. In 2020, a collector in California discovered a 1941 S nickel that had been double-struck with a 90-degree rotation between strikes. This spectacular error, showing two distinct and complete images of both sides, sold for an astounding $125,000. But perhaps the most elusive and valuable of all 1941 nickel errors is the wrong planchet strike. During the confusion of wartime production, a few 1941 nickels were struck on planchets intended for other denominations. A 1941 Philadelphia nickel struck on a silver dime planchet sold for $85,000 in 2017. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that many collectors spend their entire lives without seeing one in person. Die cracks and cuds represent another category of valuable errors. When dies begin to fail, they can create raised lines or chunks of metal on the coin's surface. A particularly dramatic die break, known as a cud, occurs when a piece of the die breaks away completely. A 1941 D nickel with a large cud at the rim, discovered in a roll of nickels by a bank teller in Michigan, recently sold $4.75. The condition of a 1941 nickel plays a crucial role in its value. Mint state coins, those that have never been circulated, can be worth significantly more than their circulated counterparts. But even within mint state grades, subtle differences can mean thousands of dollars in value. A 1941 nickel-graded MS 65 might be worth $100, while the same coin in MS 67 could bring $10,000 or more. One of the most remarkable success stories involves a collector who specialized in high-grade 1941 nickels. Over 20 years, he assembled a collection of the finest known examples from all three mints. His 1941 S and MS 68 condition, one of only two known in this grade, sold for $95,000 in 2021. The coin's surfaces were virtually perfect, with pristine luster and sharp strike characteristics that set it apart from thousands of others. Die varieties also contribute to the value of 1941 nickels. These aren't technically errors, but rather different working dies used to produce the coins. The 1941 large S over small s variety occurs when a larger S mint mark was punched over a smaller one. This variety can command prices 10 times higher than standard 1941 S nickels in the same grade. But here's where our story takes an extraordinary turn. In 2023, a previously unknown error was discovered that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. A 1941 Philadelphia nickel was found with a dramatic multiple strike, where the second strike occurred on an already struck 1940 nickel. This dual-date error, preserved in nearly pristine condition, is considered unique. Experts estimate its value could exceed $500,000 if it ever comes to market. Another factor that can dramatically increase value is toning. Natural toning occurs when coins are stored in certain environments for long periods. While not an error, spectacular rainbow toning on a high-grade 1941 nickel can double or triple its value. A 1941 D nickel with exceptional electric blue and rose toning recently brought $28,500 at auction, nearly 5 times what a similarly graded coin without toning would typically bring. For those hoping to find valuable 1941 nickels, here are the key areas to examine. The mint mark. Check for repunching or unusual positioning. Jefferson's profile. Look for any signs of doubling, especially in the eye area and liberty. The steps of Monticello. Check for complete detail on all steps. The rim. Search for cuds or die breaks. The overall strike. Examine for multiple strikes or off-center strikes. The surfaces. Look for unusual planchet composition or weight. Remember to handle potential rare coins carefully. Use cotton gloves or hold them by their edges. Never clean coins, as this can severely reduce their value. If you suspect you have a valuable error, have it authenticated by a professional grading service. The story of the 1941 Jefferson nickel isn't just about rare coins. It's about the possibility of discovering something extraordinary in the ordinary. Every time you check your change or inherit an old collection, you could be moments away from finding a coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every day, millions of coins pass through our hands. We check our change, empty our pockets, and toss nickels into jar collections without a second thought. But among these forgotten pieces of metal lies a treasure that could change your life: the 1961 Jefferson nickel. One collector in Ohio made headlines when he discovered a 1961 nickel worth over $100,000 at a local estate sale. He paid exactly 5 cents for it. That's not a typo. A single nickel, purchased for face value, sold for more than most Americans make in a year. But what made this particular coin so valuable? And more importantly, could you have one sitting in your coin jar right now? The 1961 Jefferson nickel might look ordinary at first glance. It features the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello mansion on the reverse. But beneath this common appearance lies a world of exceptional rarities and fascinating errors that have coin collectors competing fiercely at auctions. Let's start with the basics. In 1961, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 300 million nickels, while the Denver Mint added another 229 million to circulation. These numbers might make you think finding a valuable 1961 nickel is impossible. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not the regular coins that command astronomical prices. It's the mistakes. The most valuable 1961 nickel error occurred during a fascinating mishap at the Philadelphia Mint. A small batch of nickels was struck on bronze planchets intended for pennies. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare, with only 3 confirmed examples known to exist. One of these sold at a heritage auction in 2019 for $432,000. But that's just the beginning. The 1961 nickel holds several other valuable secrets. Take the double die variety, where the design appears to be stamped twice, creating a ghostly shadow effect. Look closely at Jefferson's eye, the word Liberty, and the date. If you see clear doubling, you might be holding a coin worth thousands. A retired schoolteacher from Michigan discovered one such double-die nickel while sorting through her late father's coin collection. She nearly gave the entire collection to her grandchildren to play with, but something caught her eye: a slight doubling on Jefferson's profile. That moment of curiosity led to a $28,000 payday. Then there's the elusive off-center strike. During the minting process, if the planchet isn't perfectly centered when struck, the design appears off-center, leaving a blank crescent moon shape on part of the coin. The value of these errors depends on how dramatic the misalignment is and how much of the date remains visible. A 1961 nickel struck 50% off-center, with the date fully visible, can fetch upwards of $3,000. But perhaps the most intriguing error of all is the famous speared nickel variety. This unique die crack error appears as a raised line through Monticello, looking as if someone threw a spear through the building. While not as valuable as some other errors, these variants still command hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the condition. A construction worker in Texas found one of these speared nickels in his pocket change after buying a coffee. He almost used it in a vending machine but noticed the unusual line across Monticello. That 5-cent piece turned into a $1,200 windfall. Let's talk about how to examine your 1961 nickels properly. You'll need good lighting and at least a 5x magnifying glass. Start with the date. Is it clearly 1961? Check for any doubling, particularly around the numbers and letters. Then examine Jefferson's profile. Look for any unusual marks, doubled features, or die cracks. Move to the reverse side. Study Monticello carefully. Are there any raised lines cutting through the building? Is the entire design centered properly? Check the mint mark area below Monticello. Philadelphia nickels have no mint mark, while Denver coins show a D. Any abnormalities in this area could indicate a valuable variety. The condition of your coin matters tremendously. Numismatists use a grading scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. A regular 1961 nickel in uncirculated condition, grades 60 to 70, might be worth $2 to $20. But at any of the errors we've discussed, and that value multiplies exponentially. Consider the story of a bank teller who developed a habit of checking Jefferson nickels during slow periods at work. After 6 months of searching, she found a 1961 nickel with significant doubling on the reverse. The coin was well circulated, but still brought $3,400 at auction. Her attention to detail quite literally paid off. Here's something most people don't know. The 1961 nickel can also feature what's called a repunched mint mark. On some Denver minted coins, the D mint mark was stamped multiple times, slightly offset from each other. While not as valuable as major errors, these varieties can still sell for hundreds of dollars in high grades. A particularly fascinating case emerged in 2018 when a coin roll hunter discovered a 1961 nickel with both double die features and an off-center strike. This combination of errors created a truly unique specimen that sold for over $45,000. It serves as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable coins combine multiple error characteristics. Let's discuss preservation. If you think you've found a valuable 1961 nickel, handle it only by the edges. Never clean it. This is crucial. Many potentially valuable coins have been ruined by well-meaning collectors who tried to make them shine. Place it in a soft coin holder or flip, away from extreme temperatures and humidity. The market for error coins continues to grow. In the past decade, prices for significant 1961 nickel errors have increased by an average of 12% annually. This growth reflects both the rarity of these pieces and the expanding interest in numismatics as an investment vehicle. Recently, a remarkable discovery came from an unlikely place, a kindergarten classroom. A teacher using coins to teach counting noticed something odd about a 1961 nickel in her teaching materials. The coin had been struck through a late-stage die cap, creating a dramatic stretched appearance. That teaching aid turned into a $12,000 surprise. A single nickel from 2004 recently sold for $125,000 at auction. Another one changed hands for $85,000 in a private sale. And just last year, a collector discovered one worth an estimated $250,000 in their spare change jar. These aren't special commemorative coins or presentation pieces. They're regular 2004 nickels that made their way into circulation. The difference? Tiny minting errors that most people would miss completely. The U.S. Mint produced over 1.2 billion nickels in 2004, but only a handful of these coins carry the specific imperfections that make them worth more than their 5-cent face value. Today, we're going to show you exactly what to look for and how to identify if you're holding one of these valuable error coins in your hand right now. In 2004, the U.S. Mint was particularly busy. It was the first year of the Westward Journey Nickel series, commemorating the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. This meant new designs, new dies, and increased production. All factors that contributed to some remarkable minting errors that collectors desperately seek today. Let's start with the most common valuable error from 2004, the double die. While this term might sound complex, it's actually quite simple to spot once you know what you're looking for. During the minting process, the die that stamps the design onto blank coins sometimes receives multiple impressions slightly offset from each other. This creates a distinct doubling effect on certain parts of the coin. On the 2004 nickel, pay special attention to Jefferson's I and the word liberty. If you see what appears to be a shadow or duplicate image in these areas, you might have a double die error worth anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s, depending on the severity and clarity of the doubling. But that's just the beginning. One of the rarest and most valuable 2004 nickel errors is known as the piece metal reverse. This error occurred when the mint accidentally used the wrong die combination, pairing the standard Jefferson obverse with the piece metal reverse that wasn't supposed to be released until 2005. Only 3 of these coins have been authenticated so far, with one selling for $85,000 in 2019. Take your 2004 nickel and look at the reverse side. If you see the piece metal design instead of the standard Monticello or the correct Westward Journey design, you might have hit the jackpot. But be careful. There are many convincing counterfeits out there. Professional authentication is absolutely essential for errors of this magnitude. Here's where it gets really interesting. In 2018, a Kansas coin dealer discovered what became known as the missing steps error. This occurred when the die was improperly polished, resulting in the complete absence of the steps leading up to Monticello on certain 2004 nickels. While not as valuable as some other errors, these coins still regularly command prices between $1,000 and $5,000. Let me tell you about Tom Peterson, a retired postal worker from Michigan. In 2020, he was sorting through his deceased father's coin collection when he noticed something odd about a 2004 nickel. The coin showed severe die cracks across Jefferson's portrait, what collectors call a major die break error. After getting it authenticated, the coin sold for $12,500 at auction. Tom's story isn't unique. Similar discoveries happen more often than you might think. Now, let's talk about the holy grail of 2004 nickel errors, the double-struck off-center coin. This occurs when a coin is struck twice, with the second strike significantly misaligned from the first. In 2004, due to the high production volume and multiple design changes, several of these errors made it into circulation. One particular example, showing a 50% off-center second strike, sold for $125,000 in 2021. To check for this error, examine your coin carefully under good lighting. You should be able to see 2 distinct strikes, with one noticeably offset from the other. The more dramatic the offset, the more valuable the coin typically is. But remember, slight misalignments are relatively common and don't significantly increase a coin's value. Take Sarah Chen's story, for example. A beginning collector from California, She found a double-struck 2004 nickel while going through rolls from her local bank. The coin showed a 40% off-center second strike, and after authentication, it was valued at $45,000. She still has the coin in her collection today, using it as a centerpiece to educate other newcomers about the importance of careful coin examination. But there's another error that's even rarer, though it might not look as dramatic at first glance. It's called a transitional error, and it occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet, blank, intended for a different denomination. In 2004, a handful of nickels were struck on cent planchets, creating coins that look like nickels but are copper-colored and lighter in weight. These transitional errors are among the most valuable of all. One such coin, discovered in a roll of nickels in 2015, sold for $85,000 at auction. To check for this error, weigh your 2004 nickel. A standard nickel should weigh 5 grams. If it weighs 2.5 grams, the weight of a cent, you might have one of these rare transitional errors. Let's not forget about die cuts raised, unstruck areas along the rim of the coin caused by die breaks. While usually worth between $100 and $500, some 2004 nickels with massive die cuts have sold for over $1,000. Check the rim of your coin carefully for any unusual raised areas that seem to flow into the design point. One of the most recently discovered 2004 nickel errors is the phantom date variety. This occurs when the date appears to be struck twice, with one impression much fainter than the other. These coins can sell for $500 to $2,500, depending on the clarity of the double date. David Rodriguez, a collector from Texas, found one of these in 2022 while examining coins under his microscope, proof that new varieties are still being discovered nearly 20 years later. But perhaps the most intriguing error from 2004 is what collectors call the mule error, when a coin is struck using dies intended for different coins entirely. While no confirmed cases exist for 2004 nickels, rumors persist of a nickel struck with a dime reverse. Such a coin, if it exists and can be authenticated, would likely be worth well over $1 million. So how do you check your 2004 nickels for these valuable errors? Start with good lighting and a magnifying glass of at least 5x power. Look for doubling on the lettering and Jefferson's features. Check the reverse for missing details or wrong designs. Weigh the coin to ensure it's the correct weight. And most importantly, take your time. These details are easy to miss if you rush. Remember Jennifer Martinez's story? She found a valuable double-die 2004 nickel in her daughter's piggy bank. The coin had been there for years before she learned about these errors and decided to check. That single coin paid for her daughter's first semester of college tuition. These stories might sound exceptional, but they're not as rare as you might think. Every year, more valuable 2004 nickel errors are discovered, often by people who simply took the time to look carefully at their change. The key is knowing what to look for and being thorough in your examination. If you think you've found a valuable error, don't clean the coin or handle it excessively. Place it in a soft plastic holder and consult with a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. The investment in professional authentication is well worth it for potentially valuable errors. The 2004 nickel stands as a testament to how seemingly minor minting mistakes can create coins worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. These errors represent a unique intersection of history, craftsmanship, and chance, making them highly prized by collectors and investors alike. Now you know what makes these 3 nickels extraordinary. Check your collections and change. These treasures are still circulating. Subscribe for next week's reveal of 3 Mercury dimes, worth over $50,000 each. Share your own coin finds below. Until next time, happy hunting!